welcome Elaine back to the Zoom room for another Art of Letting Go live session. So let's dive straight in to today's reading from the Manual for Teachers. We are starting the Manual for Teachers today, so this is the introduction to it. Okay, so let's just share my screen with you. We'll go straight into that, and then we'll do the workbook lesson for today and a meditation to close it. I'm trying to finish by 3:45. Okay, so all right, let's just bring up my Manual for Teachers introduction. Share my screen. Okay. So there's the introduction to Manual for Teachers. Which sets the scene nicely. The Manual for Teachers is really the FAQs of the course. So it's frequently asked questions. It's done in question and answer format, particularly for teachers. So if you want to start teaching this, and you're saying, well, inevitably you are going to be teaching it because you're teaching it through your words, through your actions.
Yeah.
So he just clarifies some of this, what teaching and learning really means in the introduction. So let's read it. So not a lot to translate here. Do you want to just read an alternative? It's just going to be personalized. Yeah. That's really translation. The role of teaching and learning is actually reversed.
Yeah. The role of teaching and learning is actually reversed in the thinking of the world. This reversal is characteristic of what the belief in separation does continuously. It seems as if teachers and learners are separated, with the teachers giving something to the learners rather than to themselves. Furthermore, the act of teaching is regarded as a special activity in which one engages only a relatively small proportion of one's time. The course, on the other hand, emphasizes that to teach is to learn, so that the teacher and learner are really the same. It also emphasizes that teaching is a constant process that goes on every moment of the day and continues into sleeping dreams as well. So it's just saying the teacher is a completely different role to what we may think it is. The course is saying that you are equal to the learner, and you're still going to be constantly in the process moment of each day of continually learning the way of the world.
Yeah, exactly. We're teaching and we're learning. Teaching and learn are really the same. And we're constantly teaching, just by the way we think, by the way we speak, by the way we act. You're teaching a thought system, whether you like it or not. You demonstrate the thought system, so you're teaching it. And it's going to be one of two. It's going to be the ego or the Holy Spirit, as he says here. Okay, so number 2, to teach is to demonstrate.
To teach is to demonstrate. There are only 2 thought systems, and demonstrate that I believe one or the other is true all the time. Others learn from my demonstration, and so do I. The question is not whether I will teach, for in this there is no choice. The purpose of the course could be said to provide me with a means of choosing what I want to teach on the basis of what I want to learn. I cannot give to someone else, but only to myself. And this I learn through teaching. Teaching is only a call to witnesses to attest to what I believe. It is a method of converting my thought system from one system to the other. This is not done by words alone. I must perceive my situation as a chance for me to teach others what I am and what they are to me. No more than that, but also never less. So it's just saying the teaching is to demonstrate, and the two thought systems will demonstrate that we believe in one or the other is true all the time. So they learn from our demonstration. So the question is, will I teach? For in this there is no choice.
You're going to be teaching one way or another. Whether you're in the ego or the Holy Spirit, you're teaching a thought system. Teaching is only a call to witnesses to attest to what I believe. It's a method of converting my thought system from one system to the other. That's very significant, right? It's a method of conversion. So I just expanded on the original. So a method of conversion means it's a method of converting my thought system from one to the other. And this is not done by words alone. It happens in your daily life, in your perception of each situation. So I must perceive any situation as a chance for me to teach others what I am and what they are to me. No more than that, but also never less. So it's an opportunity to learn and to teach and to learn a thought system, every encounter, every situation. And if it's correctly done, then it's the Holy Spirit that you're going to be learning and you're teaching and learning. And you really teach what you need to learn. So the more you demonstrate it through your words and your actions, the more that the veracity of the thought system is evident to you. Right? So you're really teaching yourself, you're convincing yourself. And that's why it's important to act in integrity. It's thought in alignment with words, in alignment with actions. That's what we call integrity. Because if there's a dissonance, then there's no integrity. Then it's not in alignment anymore. And you're actually, if you behave in a way that's not in integrity to the Holy Spirit, you are then demonstrating another thought system, which denies the Holy Spirit's one. And that's the essence of all problems in the world. It's just, okay, there's a conflict between these thought systems and in people's minds. And so they might on one level want to do the right thing, but on another, the ego is saying, no, do the opposite. And then you get, all the lacks of integrity and the problems arise because of the lack of integrity to a thought system and the variations. When you vacillate, it's because you didn't stick to one. You were vacillating between them, and vacillations between love and opposite. You're not going to be flick-flacking from the one says, I love you and I'm kind and I'm respectful and I want peace, and the other one saying, no, I hate you and I can't stand you and I want to attack you and I want to murder you. Well, how do you reconcile it? They're opposites. If you boil it down to the absolute basics, so like the one says I love you and I want to help you and be kind to you, and the other one says I hate you and I want to murder you. Well, how do you reconcile them? You can't. You've got to choose one or the other, which is what he's saying. Okay. Happy to go on to number 3?
Yeah. The curriculum I set up is therefore determined exclusively by what I think I am and what I believe the relationship of others is to me. In the formal teaching situation, these questions may be totally unrelated to what I think I am teaching. Yet it is impossible not to use the content of any situation on behalf of what I really teach and therefore really learn. The verbal content of my teaching is quite irrelevant to this. It may coincide with it or it may not. It is the teaching underlying what I say that teaches me. Teaching only reinforces what I believe about myself. Its fundamental purpose is to diminish self-doubt. This does not mean that the self I am trying to protect is real, but it does mean that I will teach the self that I think is real. So it's just saying that it's been set up by what we think we are, and what we believe the relationship of others to us is. So the formal teaching may be totally unrelated to what we think we are teaching. But it's impossible to use the content of the situation. I really teach and therefore really learn. Yeah. So the verbal content of our teaching is irrelevant to this. Yeah.
And the fundamental purpose is to diminish self-doubt. So we're always trying to convince ourselves of who we are, even if it's in the ego. So we demonstrate and manifest the ego to try and convince ourselves and others that the separate self is real. And the ego goes to great lengths to do that. You know, it's set up a whole world, it's set up all the structures in the world, all the games that the ego plays, all of that to convince itself it's real. It doesn't mean that the self I'm trying to protect is real, but it does mean that I will teach the self that I think is real. If I think it's real, I'm going to go to great lengths to try and convince myself and others that that self is real, even if it's not. And the world is just a demonstration of that. Everyone comes here to try and make the ego real and try and demonstrate to themselves and others and convince themselves that this separate self they've made is actually reality, is who they are. And that's what the world is for. So its purpose is fundamentally deceptive. That was what it was set up for. And we have to undo that self-deception to awaken from it. We do that by demonstrating over and over that there's another thought system within this construct of deception and deceit and the false self and all of its temptations and the pain and suffering and misery and death. Within all of that, we have to demonstrate another thought system to ourselves and others. And we have to teach it so consistently that we learn it ourselves and we help others to learn it. And that's what we're here to do. So we're all teachers of God, teachers of perfect love, if we accept that assignment as our true and only purpose in this world. Okay, so he goes on. This is inevitable.
This is inevitable. There is no escape from it. How could it be?
No escape from that I'm trying to protect the self that is real.
Oh.
That means that I teach the self that I think is real. So he's following on from that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how could it be otherwise? Everyone who follows the world's curriculum, and I will follow it until I change my mind, teaches solely to convince themselves that they are what they are not. This is the purpose of the world. Therefore, what else could be its curriculum be? Into this hopeless and closed learning situation, which teaches nothing but despair and death. Pure formless awareness of perfect love sends its teachers, and as they teach its lessons of joy and hope, their learning finally becomes complete.
The original was God sends his teachers into pure formless. Actually, I'm going to change that. I'm going to say inspires.
Mhm.
It's not like God put us here. We did that to ourselves, but God inspires its teachers, I think is a better way of framing it. So your ego put you here, but God can inspire you to awaken from it and help others to awaken and teach the lessons of joy and hope. Their learning finally becomes complete. So the way he's framing it, it's not, oh, this is all destruction and you know, this is just you're destroying the ego and there's nothing else. It's no, there's going to be a lot of joy and a lot of peace, and there's hope in this. There's a lot of positives. Yes, you're going to go through the difficulty of collapsing the false self, but what arises after that is joy and love and peace, and your only hope in this world is this. There is no other hope that's going to work. And as they teach this, you teach this over and over and over again, their learning finally becomes complete. The more you teach them, think of my own experience in teaching. The more I teach this, the more convinced I become that it must be true. Because you can't teach this over and over for hours a day sometimes in these calls and not convince yourself
Of course.
that it's true. You just can't, I couldn't be authentic. I would have stopped these calls long ago if I don't actually believe what I'm teaching. Just like you can't do it. So by teaching it, you learn it, and this is why a lot of awakening beings end up teaching, because it's part of their process of really learning it finally and completely for themselves. Okay. So I'm going to read this in. Let's read this in the original and the alternative. There's a bit of translation of salvation guide. So except for God's teachers, there would be little hope of salvation, for the world of sin would seem forever real. Elaine?
Yep, yeah, no, I'm just trying to make it a little bit bigger there. It's just I like to pinch it out. There would be little hope of awakening if it were not for my perfect love's teachers, for the world of sin would then seem forever real.
The self-deceiving must deceive. They must teach deception.
The self-deceiving must deceive, for they must teach deception.
And what else is hell?
And what else is victimhood and suffering?
This is a manual for the teachers of God.
This is a manual for the teachers of perfect love.
They are not perfect, or they would not be here.
They are not perfect, or they would not be here.
I'm going to add in a yet here. They are not perfect yet, or they would not be here. Yeah, so I said that earlier. Yeah, it's you. They are not perfect yet, or they would not be here. Let's just see. Yeah, okay, fine. Yet it is their mission to become perfect here, and so they teach perfection over and over in many, many ways until they have learned it.
Yet it is their mission to become perfect here, and so they teach perfection over and over in many, many ways until they have learnt it.
And then they'll see no more, although their thoughts remain a source of strength and truth forever.
And then they are seen no more, although their thoughts remain a source of strength and truth forever.
Who are they?
Who are they?
How are they chosen?
How are they chosen?
What do they do?
What do they do?
How can they work out their own salvation and the salvation of the world?
How can they work out their own awakening and the awakening of the world?
This manual attempts to answer these questions.
This manual attempts to answer these questions. And from the top, there would be little hope of awakening if it were not for perfect love's teachers, for the world of sin would then seem forever real. The self-deceiving must deceive, for they must teach deception. And what else is victimhood and suffering? This is a manual for teachers of perfect love. They are not perfect yet, or they would not be here. Yet it is their mission to become perfect here, and so they teach perfection over and over in many, many ways until they have learned it. And then they are seen no more, although their thoughts remain a source of strength and truth forever. Who are they? How are they chosen? What do they do? How can they work out their own awakening and the awakening of the world? The manual attempts to answer these questions. So it's just again discussing about teachers and how they are helping, the world to wake up. It's just asking questions, who are these people and why or how have they been chosen? So it's just inquiry there. What else is victimhood and suffering? So they're saying the self-deceiving must deceive, or they must teach deception. So that's the ego. There's just little hope of awakening if you're not, if we're not the perfect love's teachers.
Yeah, well, who would teach the message in the world? If it weren't for the likes of Yeshua, Buddha, and these great masters, and then people who follow them, like for instance, myself in this situation, saying, okay, I'll put together a whole course based on the teaching of a master like Yeshua. Who would teach it? The world would just carry on in its egoic way, and there'd be no one presenting some kind of alternative to it. So that's what he's saying. That this is a manual for perfect love's teachers to help them to work out their own awakening and the awakening of others. And there's various questions that arise, which he hasn't addressed in the text or in the workbook. So this is, as I said, this is the FAQs. Okay, I'm not sure about that question. And then he asks it and answers it in this manual for teachers. Okay, so fairly straightforward. What he's saying, nice intro to it. Let's read the summary and the key message, and then we can go on to, probably got time to do our insert actually on what is Christ today, as well as the lesson.
Reading a paragraph each, yeah.
Yeah, if you'd like to. It's only there's 3-4 paragraphs. Yeah.
I'll just read the first. Yeah, I'll read the first one. In my true perception, the roles of teaching and learning are reversed. I perceive them as the same and understand that teaching is a continuous process that occurs at all times in both my awakening and sleeping dreams. I demonstrate through my actions one of two thought systems, learning both from and through my demonstrations. My teaching, international or not, is a reflection.
Intentional.
Oh, right. Yeah. Where am I? I'll just open that up a bit. My teaching intentional, whether intentional.
So whether intentional or not is probably better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There. Intentional or not is a reflection of my self-perception and beliefs about myself and others. The content of my teachings, beyond just words, reinforces what I believe about myself, thereby reducing my self-doubt. Even this is about my separate self's reality.
Yeah, so
yeah, it's just about the teaching and learning, or reversed to what we normally do it. So we see it as a continuous process that occurs at all times, in waking and sleeping, dreams. So we demonstrate through our actions one of two thought systems. Through learning from our demonstrations, our teaching, whether intentional or not, is a reflection of the self-perception and beliefs about myself and others. It's beyond just words, reinforces what I believe about myself, so reducing the self-doubt, even if this is about my separate self's reality.
let's say, let's two. So what we do is we spend enormous amount of effort trying to prove our separate self's reality in this world. And of course, it's never going to work, but we keep trying. The ego is very persistent, trying to reduce your self-doubt because it doubts itself. It doubts its own existence because it's not real. And so it's trying to convince itself that it's real, and it goes to enormous lengths to do that. But the problem is it's not real. So no matter what it tries to do in this world, it's a futile attempt at proving that it's real when it's not. So Yeshua's just saying to us, we'll give up that game. Stop. Stop trying to do that. Just accept that it's unreal and stop trying to reinforce it. And accept that there's another self, capital self, your true self, the Christ, that is given to you in full replacement of this separate self that you made. And start accepting that, and you do that by forgiving or letting go of your misperceptions of reality. That's how you make the transition from the one self to the other. So forgiveness is the learning of your true self, the acceptance of your true self, and the denial of the false self. All right, so number 2, paragraph 2. Acknowledge that following the world's curriculum is an attempt to convince myself of an identity that is not truly mine, leading to a cycle of despair, of doubt, despair, and death. Might as well add in. But pure formless awareness of perfect love intervenes with its teachers, who teach lessons of joy and hope, and through teaching, they learn and complete their own understanding. Okay, so what's he saying there?
She's saying that the pure formless awareness of perfect love intervenes with its teachers, who teach lessons of joy and hope. And through the teaching, they learn and complete their own understanding also. Because otherwise, they just, in the other thought system, it's just a cycle of doubt, despair, suffering, and death.
Yeah, and we try to somehow patch that very faulty thought system up, and reinforce it, rather than just say, okay, actually, it's just nonsense. It's rubbish. This is needs to be consigned to the dustbin. It's not anything worthy of my belief. That's the answer. But the ego is desperately trying to patch up this very dysfunctional thought system and make it real in our own minds and in our so-called reality in this world, which is never going to work. Okay, so Larry, I tell you what, you read the key message. I'll read this.
Yeah.
Or you read the last two, up to you. But I think it's always useful to read the key message because that's the overall summary.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So you can read this one.
Without these teachers, there would be little hope for awakening from the illusion of a sinful world. They teach perfection repeatedly until they and everyone have learned it. Everyone have learned it. Their thoughts remain a source of strength and truth even after they are gone from this world, even after they have left this world. So think of Yeshua, the Buddha. Their words, their ideas have been a source of strength and truth for the time since they left. 2,000 years, in the case of Yeshua, 2.5 in the case of the Buddha, which is quite extraordinary that someone, still has an impact in people's lives 2,500 years after they died. And that's because they demonstrated the truth so clearly and purely. And that demonstration, leaves a legacy in the world, which is then formalized in the religions that came after them, Christianity and Buddhism. But the teachings stand on their own. And now what Yeshua has given to us in this world is this course to really learn what he taught. This is actually what he taught, but it wasn't written down like this 2,000 years ago by the disciples because they didn't fully understand it. And he didn't write it down. So he's waited 2,000 years to finally say, okay, here is what I actually taught. Here is a complete manual for my teachings that you can learn, you can study, and you can awaken as I did by learning this, which is pretty amazing, actually. We're in a much better position than even the disciples were 2,000 years ago. So they had him personally, but they didn't have this detailed teaching. And so what they tended to do, I think, was associate too much with the personality. It was more about Jesus and the miracles were obviously like major events. They were like, wow, but they were pretty blown away by all that. And maybe they didn't fully absorb and appreciate the teachings. They didn't get it fully. Well, now we've got the opportunity to get it, okay, because he's given us the manual. Now we have all this information technology that allows it to be sliced and diced, translated into alternative language and summarized. And, now we can have discussions on it, which are now audio and video form. Amazing. All of that has taken 2,000 years to really allow someone who's dedicated to learning this to say, okay, yes, now is the time I can really learn this thought system if I choose to. And there's really no excuse to not do it. I have the capacity, I have the tools, the information's there, it's all available. So why don't I do it? Only the ego is going to distract me from that. All right, so then just the key message, the section to wrap it up.
Teaching and learning are really the same, a continual process reflecting my identity and beliefs. Through teaching, I aim to understand and share joy and hope, striving towards a learned perfection. This journey is my path of awakening myself and others to our true self and the state of pure formless awareness that lies beyond this self. Yeah. So it just says it all. Teaching and learning are the same.
Yeah, and so by teaching and learning, this is actually following my path of awakening. And that happens in many ways. It doesn't mean you have to be a formal teacher, but you're going to be teaching in every interaction. So you're talking to just people you interact with on a daily basis, friends, family, work colleagues. You're teaching a thought system in your interaction. And that's really what he's pointing us to. So we are all teachers of God. As soon as you become a student of the course, you also become a teacher of God or perfect love. And so the manual is for you. Tell me about, oh, no, I don't need to read the manual because I'm not a teacher. No, you're a teacher by definition because you're a student. It's just recognizing that and a sort of a higher level of responsibility. The idea of teaching is that, yeah, I'm responsible because it's not just for me. I'm actually demonstrating this. So I'm teaching others a thought system. Either I'm going to teach them the truth and how to awaken and free themselves, or I'm part of the problem. I'm going to teach them the bondage and enslavement and suffering of the ego. It's going to be one or the other. So, let me dedicate my life to teaching the right thought system, which is what he's asking us to do. Okay. So any other questions or comments on this? It's a nice intro, and we'll get into the manual from tomorrow, where he discusses these various questions.
Yeah.
Some of which are really interesting and helpful. There's the development of trust, which is a great section that outlines the whole awakening process as well. So there's some really good stuff in the manual, which we'll get into, and we'll prioritize this. We'll do this first, and then we'll do the lessons afterwards. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can we take a 2-minute break? I just need
Oh,
to
yes.
come
Yeah.
get to tea, and then we'll continue. So yeah, let's
Yep.
see you yeah, it's 28. See you at 2:30. All right, I'm back, Elaine.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's have a look at today's email. Where are we? There we go. This one. Yeah, this will lead us nicely into the lesson. So if you can read the quote for today.
Stress is best defined as the perception of physical or psychological threat.
So this is from Deepak Chopra, who's quite well known. You've probably heard of him, Indian American author, medical doctor, but really into alternative health and very much into the spiritual side of things. He's done a lot of teaching. You know, he's a very well-known author, speaker, who done a lot to teach people this another way of thinking. So expresses the essence of what stress is very succinctly. It's just a perception of some kind of external threat. Another name for which is fear. What happens when you feel threatened? It's fear arises. So all stress is really just a form of fear, and all fear causes us to feel stressed. So the two words really point to the same inner state of turmoil and disconnection from love. So fear and stress are really the same emotion. There are many scientific studies that have proved the detrimental effects of fear and stress to human and animal health. So these include headaches, high blood pressure, which increases the risk of a stroke, heart problems, diabetes, skin conditions, asthma, arthritis, depression, anxiety, and a lowered immune system, which leads to an increased susceptibility to illness. So you think of what happened in COVID, you know, all the stress created around, you know, being socially isolated, not being able to go out, not being able to interact with friends, financial stress, people couldn't work, their income. That was led to a lowered immunity, which made people even more susceptible to the supposed illness, which, you know, well, we won't go into that. But the approach was not okay. So let's look at alternative ways of doing this. Let's look at more mindfulness, meditation, spiritual practices. Not by the authorities, certainly. It was like, no, we're just going to lock everyone down and deprive people of social contact and also the ability to work and earn income, which is just going to shoot your stress levels through the roof, which is totally contrary to healing. And you know, you should be trying to reduce stress because it's very deleterious. If you do a search, Google search on the harmful effects of stress, you can see physical stress can increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, heart attack, and other conditions. Also lead to digestive problems, headaches, muscle tension, and weight gain. Stress can cause anxiety, depression, other mental illnesses. It can also lead to behavioral changes, such as change in how you respond to others, can affect cognitive functioning. When you're stressed, you don't function very well, do you? And if you continuously in a state of stress, that can have a long-lasting negative effects on your cognitive function. People can actually have a nervous breakdown. They can become incapable of really functioning and on a normal level. That's what a nervous breakdown is. Stress can negatively impact your immune functioning. Stress can lead to increased alcohol or drug use. We know that because people self-medicate. So I need the alcohols or the drugs or the cigarettes to try and cope. Can affect your mood, your sexual desire, may lead to impotence, high levels of stress during pregnancy, can cause behavioral and developmental issues in the body, and it can affect all systems of the body. Chronic stress can lead to long-term problems in particularly systems that are non-essential. It affects everything. But what happens in the fight or flight response is that your non-essential systems get shut down. So your reproductive, digestive, your immune system are just temporarily shut down or inhibited to mobilize as much energy as possible to fight or flee from the perceived threat. But the threat's all in your own mind. There's nothing really to fight or flee. It's just going on in your own mind. Then that stress is just dysfunctional. The fight or flight response was designed to help you survive in a moment of absolute crisis where your life was really at stake. It wasn't designed for, okay, I'm now dealing with a stressor in my daily life where my boss is upset with me or my partner's upset or I've got financial trouble and there's no one to really fight or flee from. It's just a situation I have to deal with. It doesn't cope well with that. So then you remain in this state where all of these systems are kind of being shut down or suppressed because your system's saying, well, you've got to run away or fight for your life, but that's not the case. So in 99.9% of the cases, the fight or flight response mode doesn't serve us. And you could argue even in a mode where there is a life-threatening situation, that wouldn't serve us because you'd be much better off in a peaceful, calm state. Do you remember? Did you ever watch that movie with Bradley Cooper? It was called it's just gone on my mind now. It was about the wonder drug. And he takes this wonder drug and Limitless.
Yes. Yes, I did see that. Yes.
It takes this wonder drug and it suddenly goes into a high level of functioning. There's all the ego is basically removed. It's in an enlightened state and able to, function at a super level. So you remember in that situation where his girlfriend was being hunted down by the killer.
And she was given the tablet.
Okay, I just want you to breathe and I want you to take the pill because when you take the pill, you'll know what to do. So in a fight or flight, she's incapacitated. He would have got her and killed her. But she takes the pill, it takes her into a higher awareness, and she's like, okay, suddenly I know what to do, right? It becomes clear. I know what to do. I'm going to run across. I can see some people there. I'm going to sprint across to them. And the guy comes for her and she just takes a kid and she swings the kid and knocks the knife out of his hand and slashes us and gets away. She wouldn't have been able to do that if she wasn't clear and calm and peaceful. So you could argue fight or flight never really serves you. It's much better to be in a clear, calm state and then be inspired. So, okay, so what should I do, Holy Spirit? How can I handle this best?
Yeah.
Yeah, she ran, but she wasn't panicked. What that pill did to her was it put her into a state of calmness, of clarity, of like, okay, cut out the fear. This is what I need to do. Focus, get in the moment, do it. And then she was like, right, I'm just going to execute. I'm going to go and I'm sprint across because I can outrun or keep ahead of the guy until I get there. And then I don't know if she had the plan worked out. Maybe she did, but it was like, okay, I'm just going to, I'm going to do that rather than, oh my God, he's going to get me. And I'm so terrified. I can't even move because you can literally become paralyzed with fear. So you could argue that it's never helpful. It's actually better to get into your higher awareness. You're like, okay, I'm calm, I'm clear, and I'm fully present and I'm functional. I'm in the moment, and I'm going to deal with it accordingly. So on the spiritual level, what fear and stress do is they deny who we really are as pure formless awareness of perfect love. And they make us identify with a false substitute victim identity that believes it's guilty of destroying love and is therefore always fearful of the punishment it thinks it deserves, which it then misperceives the potential for everywhere and in everyone. And that in turn leads to anger, yet another toxic emotion to add to this ghastly brew of negativity the ego makes us drink daily. So these are spiritually this is spiritually what's going on, and we need to let go of that whole self concept that feels that it's under threat. and then we feel angry, we get fearful and angry in response. On the physical level, our bodies produce a potent cocktail of powerful hormones and so-called stress chemicals, such as adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. These are powerful drugs, essentially. So you go into fight or flight mode, you get a hit of adrenaline and cortisol. We all know what that feels like. It's like, when you feel that rising panic, that's adrenaline and cortisol coming into your system going, okay, emergency, and you can feel it rising. And then, if you allow that to consume you, you can really get panicked. And if people don't know how to control that, they can go into a panic attack and be like, so much that they literally can't breathe. Whereas when you do some nice, rhythmical deep breathing, it counters that. It helps you counter the effect of cortisol, adrenaline, and other stress chemicals. And so it takes you out of the fight or flight mode into what we call the parasympathetic nervous system. So fight or flight, as I said, our bodies gear up to fight or flee from a seemingly life-threatening adversary. So it was designed for, a lion or a hostile member of another tribe in prehistoric times, right? You got to fight for your life or you got to run. And then all these non-essential systems get shut down to mobilize energy, right? You need all your energy for survival. So we don't need the reproductive, digestive, and immune system. They're non-essential. So shut them down and direct all the energy towards this immediate task of surviving. And so that's the sympathetic nervous system, which serves us well, arguably not, as I said, but if you had a genuine life-threatening situation, that sudden surge of energy that you get can be useful. They say, okay, well, you got to there's that old saying of the mother whose baby falls under a car and then has to lift up the car. She can do it because there's just this sudden surge of like, okay, but it's not sustainable. 99.9% of the time, we don't have a life-threatening situation to deal with. Just a perceived threat to our health, our well-being, our livelihood. And most of that has been streamed into our awareness via the devices, television devices, TVs, computers, tablets, smartphones that are now ubiquitous. So every time you watch the quote bad news on the TV or your phone, you're exposed to an extremely negative and narrow vision of the world and another dose of powerful immune suppressing chemicals that damage your health and well-being a little bit more. You think of what happened in COVID. That was a classic example. Oh my God, so many people have died. Isn't it terrible? There's a pandemic. And it was just, over and over for days, weeks, and months, this digital brainwashing really of people. I call it digital depression via mass media medication. That was what was going on. So it's difficult to change your behavior and stop living in a self-destructive way in that kind of environment where there's all these so-called real things happening in the world. But of course, we already know this, or you wouldn't be searching for a better way and be reading the words now and listening to this. So then the question becomes, okay, I understand all of this. What can I really do to overcome my fear? And right now, which is really the only time there is, you have the perfect opportunity to start thinking and doing things differently, because it's surely, obvious to you that you need a strong counterforce to the fear and despair that believing what society would like you to believe in inevitably generate. And you're doing this, the program, Art of Letting Go program, because it gives you a counter to that. The mind training resources, the meditations, the live sessions, all of it's really just designed to help you to let go of negative thoughts and emotions and set your mind free to be who you really are, i.e. your true, or in ACIM terms, your Christ self. And the practice of that, it does require vigilance, it does require discipline, it does require practice, because the world is set up to teach you that you're something else. So you've got to counter all of that with what we call spiritual practices, which is why spiritual practices have been around for thousands of years. Because people have figured out, well, these are useful, these are necessary as a counterforce to the world's programming, and never more so than now. You look at the level of now this uh, ego. You know, before you didn't know about all the bad news. If you lived in a little village and you didn't have communication with the next village or towns, you didn't really know what was going on, did you? It's
No.
just, okay, well, this is what's going on in my little world, in my little village or farm or wherever you lived, and okay, I can kind of deal with that. Nothing much is changing. For
Mm.
literally, if you were born in the Middle Ages and you died, nothing much really changed
No.
in your 80 years of life. There were no major changes of technology. It was like you're born as a peasant, you work the land, there's the structure of society didn't change. It only started changing in the sort of 1600s when the Industrial Revolution came along, and there was then a lot of change started happening. And since then, it's been changing, pretty rapidly, ever since. And now you think of the change that people have in one lifetime. Say your life, you're 62. When you were born, computers weren't even, I think they'd just sort of been invented. The mainframe had just kind of
Yeah.
been invented, but it was very embryonic.
It's mid-80s when I got to use a computer.
Yeah.
Mid-80s.
So they only really came into mass
87.
use in the 80s. And then we had the internet in the 90s, and all of the communication techniques. And then we had mobile phones in 90s and 2000s. And now it's AI. And it's just like, wow, like what a lot of change, compared to the world that you were born into. And now it's like, whoa, that's in, 60 years, that's a
Incredible.
radical change. And you think 80 years. I mean, my parents are now in their mid 80s. I mean, they were born before World War II. I
Mm.
mean, the computers didn't even exist.
No.
And the internet and social media and all these devices. I mean, it was like, you had phones. You had communication was like, well, you're going to phone someone, or you sent a letter or a telegram.
Yes, that's what I remember
I
as
mean,
well. Yeah.
totally different, totally different. Everything's got way speeded up.
Has it?
Everything's kind of happening at lightning speed now. And that obviously creates stress on the system. People are like, oh, you can't really say what's going to happen
Mm.
in the future. It's changing
Pressure.
so rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There is.
there's a lot of stress and a lot of fear. Stress levels have gone up, I think, significantly over 100 years because of
Yeah.
the rapid change.
Mm.
And so how do we counter that? Well, the answer is spiritual practice. We have to go within ourselves, and we have to find that unshakable peace within in the face of all this chaos and turmoil and change. Find something that doesn't change within you. And that's really your only security in the world. And that's exactly what all the great spiritual teachers and teachings are saying. You need to go within and find the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, which is the counterforce to fear in all of its forms. And you can stay in peace even in a crazy, chaotic world, because that peace is transcendent. That peace is actually more powerful than all of the noise and the disturbance the ego has invented in this world.
Mm.
But you're only going to know that if you practice it yourself, which is why there's a necessity. If you're not already perfectly peaceful and happy, which most people aren't, there's a necessity to practice. Okay? You need this, because if you don't, the guilt, the fear, the anger, the stress, all of the upsets of the ego is likely to be quite all-consuming if you allow that, and then you suffer the various effects of that, which we've seen: headaches, high blood pressure, heart problems. All these health problems are really stress conditions. They originate in the mind and then they become physical. And so modern medicine is not very good at dealing with these conditions, because it's a spiritual problem. It's a mental and spiritual problem, not a physical problem. The physical is just a manifestation of what's happening mentally and emotionally, and it needs to be addressed at that level, not by medicating. Oh, you've got depression or anxiety, we'll put you on Prozac. That's
Mm.
not addressing the real problem. The real problem is a problem in your mind.
Mhm.
It's your belief system. It's your self-concept. Okay, but you need to then do some work to become aware of that and let that go. And so letting go, radical forgiveness, is the healing of all of it, if you allow it to be. Okay. So that leads us nicely into our lesson. It's all a precursor to today's lesson, which is about fear. Today belongs to love. So let me not fear. Let's do the lesson first, then we'll do what is the Christ.
Today belongs to love. Let me not fear. Or today belongs to love, so I am not afraid.
Okay. So today belongs to love. Let me not fear, or I've just kind of put it into one sentence. Today belongs to love, so I am not afraid. Okay? Because if there's only love, then what's there to fear? Fear is just in my own mind. Fear is part of the false self. All right, so let me read the prayer in the original. You read in the alternative. So, Father, today I would let all things be as you created them, and give your Son the honor due his sinlessness, the love of brother to his brother and his friend.
My source today, I let all things be as you extended them, and give your extension the honor due to its innocence, the love of one companion for another, and for the remembrance of perfect love, which is everyone's friend.
Through this I am redeemed.
I am liberated through this.
Through this as well, the truth will enter where illusions were. Light will replace all darkness, and your Son will know he is as you created him.
Through this as well, the truth will enter where illusions were. Pure formless awareness will replace all negative awareness or negative awareness, and I, as your extension, will know myself as you extend me. From the top, my source today, I let all things be as you extend them, and give your extension the honor due to its innocence, the love of one companion for another, and for the remembrance of perfect love, which is everyone's friend. I am liberated through this. Through this as well, the truth will enter where illusions were. Pure formless awareness will replace all negative awareness, and as your extension, I will know myself as you extend me. So it's just an affirmation coming from the source. He's extending his love, perfect love, to everyone, and we can be liberated through all of this. And then also the truth will enter.
And through all of this, I will come to know myself as you created me or as you extend me. So forgiveness leads to a realization of who you are. That's the link. Forgiveness is sort of practice of realizing who you are moment by moment.
Yeah, so
That's the only way you're really going to learn that. You've got to let go of the false self that you think you are to accept the true self. Letting go is the process of doing that. So really, really simple, but not easy to do, because what you're denying then is yourself. The reason why we struggle is because you're actually denying who you are. When you forgive, you're denying the self that you think you are. And that's why, because there's a part of you that's like, hang on, that's not right, because I'm this. And now I'm being told, no, I'm not this, I'm something else, and I've got to let go of this that I thought I was, that I identified with. And now I experience a conflict between the truth of who I really am that's underlying it. It's saying, hang on, there's something else here. Just come to me and let go of this nonsense. And the false self that's saying, oh no, 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 that's you this ego, this spiritual stuff is all woo woo and ridiculous, and don't listen to that. Like I'm who you are. You're a separate self. Listen to me. I've helped you. I've protected you. I've guided you. Without me, you lost. Who's going to take care of you? The ego says. Who's going to take care of you in the world? I keep you safe. Don't forget it. Fear. It keeps you in bondage with fear. Or, if you don't listen to me, then who's going to take care of you? And we all know, the world is a cruel place. So if you don't listen to me and watch your back and behave defensively and maybe attack in self-defense, then you're done for. You're just going to be a doormat. You're going to be used and abused, and you got to take care of yourself, and I take care of you. Blah, blah, blah. You know the story. Blah, blah, blah. But all of that is just fear. It's this thought system of fear, and he uses fear as a placeholder for the whole ego. He says fear is all of this bound into one. If you look at this egoic system, fear is this entire thing, the descent into hell. He calls this whole system fear. Yeah, so it manifests here as a false expectation of punishment appearing real. But when he says there's only two thought systems, love and fear, he's saying, well, it's all really the same. Fear requires guilt and sin in order to be present, because you must think you've done something wrong, and then you need to be punished. And then in order to have guilt and sin, you need to have separated from your source. You need to believe you actually have destroyed love in order to be guilty. Yeah. So it's all bound up. Guilt, sin, fear, and then you're gonna from that thought system, guilt and sin and fear, you're gonna invent a concept of a fearful, wrathful God, and then you're gonna accuse and blame and attack other people because you don't want to accept the guilt for yourself. So then they have to be the guilty ones to save you. God's going to punish them and not you. And this whole system, crazy system, is fear. So it's all bound up. You can't have fear without guilt and sin, and fear is inevitably going to lead to attack. And then you just it leads you to the false self concept of being a victim of the world, living a helpless, enervated little life, which is hell of limitation, lack, loneliness, suffering, and inevitably death. It puts you in that box, and it tells you, don't you forget it. This is who you are. And, nothing is going to change its mind except the Holy Spirit, which comes into this disaster of the thought system, says, no, think again, my brother, you have been wrong about all of it. Fortunately, you got it all wrong from the beginning of this delusion. Believing you were a separate identity and self is just totally fictitious and made up. You never were. You got it all wrong. It's just a nightmare. You can let go of it all, and you can go back to pure formless awareness of perfect love. Fortunately, there is a way out of the nightmare you made. Okay. So then just a short number 2. Special blessing comes to us today from him who is our Father.
A special blessing comes to me today from my source.
Give this day to him, and there will be no fear today, because the day is given unto love.
I give this day to it, and it will not be afraid today, because I have given the day to love.
Yeah. So, thoughts on that?
Just a very nice affirmation. Just give your love to the source today. A day of blessings from the source.
Special blessing. And he's asking us to do that every day. Give up your fears, give up all of the ego's thoughts and emotions, and find a peace in this love that he's pointing to, transcendent love, that never changes. If that never changes and you can rest in that, then there's nothing to fear. It's only when things change and when we look at the ego, and we say, oh, this is, I'm really uncertain about the future. I can't be certain about what's going to happen. And so now I'm fearing it. All of that is just a manifestation of the fear of punishment. You think that the world is going to punish you somehow. As long as you have guilt, that's what you're going to believe. Oh, I'm going to get my punishment one way or another at some point. Now, most people aren't even consciously aware of that, but it's very much entrenched in their thought system. Someone today actually said to me, sort of business context, said, yeah, well, then the guilt is on you. I said, oh, that's a bit like, okay, but there's the thought system of guilt coming in. Oh, the guilt is on you. So we're dealing with this all the time, but it's like a hidden level. Most people don't acknowledge it because the guilt is a not a nice feeling. It's normally buried and repressed, and it comes out in these in fear and in attack, accusation, blame, attack. It comes out in the limitation, the lack, the loneliness, the sickness, the suffering, the death. That's all guilt, but it's hidden until you make it conscious and you say, okay, I've got to really look at this and see what is the source of my guilt? Why do I feel like I'm guilty and I deserve to be punished? Well, because I think I destroyed love. And then you ask, well, did I really destroy love? If love is here and I can accept it back into my awareness, then how's it? It's not possible that I destroyed it. It's still there. I've just denied it. So maybe I should just accept it back and then the problem's over. I didn't destroy love, so I'm not guilty for anything. So there's nothing to fear. So I don't need to accuse and blame and attack. And I don't need to identify myself with a helpless, innovator little life in a body that's doomed to suffer and die. I don't need to do any of that anymore because I'm still this loving awareness and I never really have changed. I just go back to my original state. It's an elegant solution. It's so simple. It's so clear, so simple. It's the only thing that's really going to work. You just have to go through the process of extracting yourself from all of this, which is what the forgiveness or letting go is about. The reinterpretation of the ego's dream by the Holy Spirit, or the remembrance of perfect love, or the awareness of oneness, whatever you want to call it, has to happen in order for you to go back and restore your mind to this awareness. And that's exactly what Yeshua is saying. Okay, we'll focus on the Holy Spirit reinterpreting the dream and being in the blue arrows. You're going back into your true self, and then on the other side, on this arrow, this is reinterpreting all of this in your own mind, saying, well, am I really guilty? No, you're not guilty for anything. There's no guilt. There's no sin. It's all collapsed and undone. Okay, so any other thoughts, comments on the lesson? Good one.
Oh, yeah.
Just to remind you not to fear. And the only way you're going to do that, you can't say I'm not going to fear and I'm still going to be a separate self. So you have to collapse the whole system. Don't say, oh well, I just don't want to fear. I want a bit more peace and love, but I'm still a separate self, because then
Not possible.
the
No.
source of the fear is still in your mind, which is guilt and sin. So the only way out of fear, genuinely, is to collapse the separate self. The separate self will always fear, will always feel guilty and sinful. At its core, it will always fear. It's always going to get upset and angry and seek to project that out. It's always going to identify itself as a victim, because that's what it does. Once you're in the separate self, that's where you end up, in the victim. And that's the logical outcome of the whole thought system. There's no other way that it could be. This world and the ego identities that seem to live in it is a logical progression of the thought system separation. If you play this thought system separation out to its maximum extent, then this is what you get. And that's where we learn. Okay, so this is what you get if you believe in the ego. Is this something I want? Is this something I like? Is this a reality that I choose? And Yeshua's saying, no, you don't need to. You can see it from the Holy Spirit's perspective and see that this is all madness. It's just a crazy, insane dream, and you can let it all go. And you can free your mind from all of it, collapse the whole system. And then fear goes along with everything else. But it's all or nothing. You can't have a little bit of a little bit of love, and then fear, a little bit of your separate self, and try and mitigate fear. That's what a lot of people try and do. Well, I'll make myself into a better separate self. So I'll use magic. I'll try and grow, and I'll try and achieve things, and I'll try and make myself safe in the world, but there's still going to be fear. Just ask anyone, who's let's say they've made a lot of money or they've been successful, celebrities and so on. They'll tell you that didn't make them safe. In fact, often they were even more fearful because now they've got more to lose in the world. Now I've got more money. I've got a reputation I could lose. I've got money. I've got relationships that if they blow up, I could lose those. And then I'm publicly exposed because all the tabloids are going to talk about me. And, it's like, so I'm not escaping from fear at all that way. Illusions will never help you. Only when you start letting go of the self-concept. And some celebrities have done that, like Jim Carrey, who else? Anthony Hopkins. There are people who have gone a long way. Morgan Freeman, long way on the way of awakening. Tina Turner. Okay, I've lived this, and I've seen that that this really isn't satisfying. This world of illusion, and particularly in show business and Hollywood, and it's just massive illusions. It isn't really going to bring me the peace that I want. She said, Tina Turner, 10 years before her death, said, no, my glory days were not when I was on stage, strutting my stuff, singing in front of tens of thousands of people, getting Grammy awards and whatever else. No, my glory days were my last 10 years when I found peace. And I let all that go, and I found the sense of inner peace and who I really am. Very interesting. So like none of that really mattered, but she had to go through all of that and do it to realize that was her path of awakening. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to we've still got some time, so let's do the five paragraphs of what is the Christ, and we'll finish with a meditation, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what is the Christ. I'll read in the original, you read in alternative. So Christ is God's Son as he created him.
My true self is perfect love's extension as it extends itself.
He is the self we share, uniting us with one another and with God as well.
It is the self we share, uniting me with all my companions and pure formless awareness of perfect love as well.
He is the thought which still abides within the mind that is his source.
It is the thought which still lives within the awareness that it is its source.
He has not left his holy home, nor lost the innocence in which he was created.
It has not left its innocent home, nor lost the innocence in which it extends.
He abides unchanged forever in the mind of God.
It lives unchanged forever in the pure formless awareness of perfect love. From the top, so I was just letting my old dog out there. My true self is perfect love's extension as it extends itself. It is the self we share, uniting me with all my companions and pure formless awareness of perfect love as well. It is the thought which still lives within the awareness that is its source. It has not left its innocent home, nor lost the innocence in which it extends. It lives unchanged forever in pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah, so what you're saying there.
Well, it's just about our true self, and we share it with our companions in pure formless awareness of perfect love. And it's a thought that still lives within the awareness of this source, and it's never left its innocent home. So it just lives unchanged forever in this pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah, exactly. It's an eternal self. It's a self that cannot be destroyed. It cannot change, cannot die. This is the Christ. This is who we really are. And our job is to connect with that. And we do that by letting go of our illusions about ourselves. So if we look at the Holy Trinity, we raise ourselves up into the true self, the Christ identification, when we perceive correctly. So we teach ourselves that we're the true self by letting go of our misperceptions about ourselves and about reality. The more we do that, the more we identify with this true self. And so the Holy Spirit, which is this mechanism of correct perception, leads us back to Christ, to who we really are. And when we fully established in that, then it's a short step back to God. Because what underlies the true self is pure formless awareness of perfect love. We've fully identified with that as the true self at its highest level, and we just kind of merge back in. We let go of the body finally, and we just go back into our original awareness, in which the self, any self-concept of being a true self, or the idea of having to perceive correctly, disappears. So there's no need for the Holy Spirit, and there's no need for the Christ or the true self. They disappear and they collapse back into pure formless awareness, the perfect love, and there is only God. And so that's how the paradox is finally resolved and perfect oneness is restored into your mind. Okay. So Christ is the link that keeps you one with God and guarantees that separation is no more than an illusion of despair, for hope forever will abide in him.
Have a little bit. Oops. Yeah. My true self is the link that keeps me one with the pure formless awareness of perfect love and guarantees that the belief in separation is no more than an illusion of despair, for hope will live in it forever.
Your mind is part of his and his of yours.
My awareness is part of its and it's of mine.
Here's the part in which God's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over.
It is the part in which perfect love's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over.
He remains untouched by anything the body's eyes perceive.
It remains untouched by anything my body's eyes perceive.
Although in him his Father placed the means for your salvation, yet does he remain the self, who, like his Father, knows no sin.
It remains untouched by anything my body's eyes perceive. Oh, sorry, where are we? Sorry, just got distracted with the dog there. Did you read number 5?
Yeah, I'll read it again. For though in him his Father placed the means for your salvation, yet does he remain the self, who, like his Father, knows no sin.
Although its source placed in it the means for my awakening, yet it remains the self which, like its source, knows no sin. On the top, my true self is the link that keeps me one with pure formless awareness of perfect love and guarantees that the belief in separation is no more than an illusion of despair, for hope will live in it forever. My awareness is part of its and it's it of mine. It is the part in which perfect love's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over. It remains untouched by anything my body's eyes perceive, for through its source, placed in it the means for my awakening, yet it remains the self which, like its source, knows no sin. Just talking about the true self being linked to the pure formless awareness, and guarantees that the belief in separation is no more than an illusion. And my awareness is part of it, and it's part of mine. So.
The part in which perfect love's answer lies. All decisions already made, dreams are over. So it's a transcendent self. It's a self that is not affected by any of this, but yet it can perceive, right? So the true self is useful and necessary in the world because it's the self that can perceive correctly. It's the self that's actually having the true perceptions, making the corrections, experiencing the miracles, letting go of the old thoughts and emotions that make up the ego. So the true self and the Holy Spirit, which is really this function of transformation. It's the actual process of changing one's mind is the Holy Spirit in action. The two of those together work to restore your mind to pure formless awareness of perfect love. So source placed in it the means for my awakening because I have the awareness of truth, yet it remains the self which, like its source, knows no sin. So it's a link, as it says. It's a bridge between this transcendent absolute realm of infinite awareness, which is God, and this illusory world of duality. There has to be a bridge and a link. Christ and the Holy Spirit are that bridge. They link the two realities, and they help you to transform your awareness, your mind from one to the other. Without the system, how would you get back? That's the question. I think there's many teachings, but many of them don't have such an explicit bridge. They haven't necessarily built that bridge. In the Buddha's teaching, they say, the doctrine of no self. There's no self. Well, yeah, at level 1, that's true. But how do you operate in this world, level 2, without a self?
Mm-hmm.
Someone's got to decide. Someone's got to perceive. So who's perceiving them? Someone's got to make decisions. Who's that self then? That's perceiving, deciding, saying things, doing things. Who is that self? Is that going to be the false self, the little self, or is it going to be a transcendent self, a higher self? That's the question. Because there's going to be a self that's operating in this world. So it gives us a way to be in the world but not of the world, to kind of bridge the gap, to be here for a while in a happy dream while we awaken to the absolute truth of pure formless awareness of perfect love. But while we're here, we need to still carry on perceiving. Something's got to perceive now, but correctly for us, and that's what the Christ is all about, the true self. And the Holy Spirit is just the actual process of remembering love in the moment. When you change your mind in a situation, you change your perception. That is the process of changing your mind, of letting go of the ego, identifying with your true self, letting go of the ego self. That's the Holy Spirit in action. So is that clear? You see the relationship between them. The Holy Spirit's not so much entity as a process. And I think people get confused with it. The Holy Spirit's seen as some kind of entity, and then, well, how does that interact with the Christ and God? And now there's three, and I get confused because which is which, and are they all equal? And if you read Christian theologians, they're mostly quite confused about this issue. They can't really explain it because they don't understand the illusion. If you understand it's all an illusion, you understand the Christ and the Holy Spirit are mechanisms to awaken you from the illusion. They're not permanent or eternal. They're just part of the illusory structure. They're how you perceive God in this world and how you can actually use pure formless awareness of perfect love in a very functional way in this world. Then it makes sense. Okay, these are temporary constructs. At this level 1, they're going to disappear. You don't need them anymore. You don't need a Holy Spirit that's going to reinterpret the world for you, or a true self that's going to be in charge of your perceptions if you're just pure formless awareness of perfect love. They've served their purpose, they've fulfilled their function, and then they would just disappear by merging back into the awareness from which they came. Because they were always just an extension of this awareness, which is why we use the word extension of perfect love. Okay, it's just an extension of this awareness into the world of perception and form. So it's a very psychologically sophisticated system. I haven't seen another system that is able to cope as well with the problems that we encounter in this world, but also remind you constantly that there's another reality. And this is the system Yeshua's given us, the Holy Trinity. It's an operating system for your life and for your awakening. Okay, so home of the Holy Spirit. Let's carry on. Number 3, home of the Holy Spirit and at home in God alone. Does Christ remain at peace within the heaven of your holy mind?
Home of the remembrance of perfect love and at home in pure formless awareness of perfect love alone, my true self remains at peace within the pure formless awareness of my innocent mind.
This is the only part of you that has reality and truth.
This is the only part of me that has reality in truth.
The rest is dreams.
The rest is dreams.
Yet will all these dreams be given up to my true self, to fade before its magnificence and reveal my true self to me at last.
Yet will these dreams be given up to my true self, to fade before its magnificence and reveal my true self to me at last. And from the top, home of remembrance of perfect love and at home in pure formless awareness of perfect love alone, my true self remains at peace within the pure formless awareness of my innocent mind. This is the only part of me that has reality in truth. The rest is dreams. Yet will these dreams be given up to my true self, to fade before its magnificence and reveal my true self to me at last. So it's just talking about the remembrance of perfect love. And the true self remains at peace within this pure formless awareness of our innocent mind. And this is the only part that's real in truth. And the rest is dreams. So will these dreams be given up for our true self to fade before its magnificence? And this will reveal our true self at last.
Yeah. So, thoughts on that?
I've just said.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very nice
Any
to
other
know.
thoughts?
Well, it's just nice to know, isn't it? That's just, this is our true self, the jewel. It's just the transcending is the task.
Yeah, transcendent self. And it's home of the Holy Spirit, or home of the remembrance of perfect love. And at home in pure formless awareness of perfect love alone. The true self remains at peace within the pure formless awareness of your innocent mind. So he's giving us the relationship between these. He's saying, okay, so you have a true self, and that's home of this remembrance of perfect love. So the true self remembers perfect love and acts on it. It changes its mind. It has true perceptions. It corrects false perceptions. When you remember perfect love, all of the falsity of the ego is then undone, and you remember the truth. And you remember it situation by situation. It doesn't happen all at once. Okay, I've got a situation arising. It's in the domain of perception, and I need to perceive it correctly. And so whenever you do that, you train your mind and you reinforce the true self, saying, okay, well, actually, the true self is true. And what underlies the true self is perfect oneness. This perfect love, perfect oneness is true. And I'm perceiving it is true because my perception is now coming from oneness. So I reinterpret all of the ego's shenanigans from the filter of perfect oneness, and I see that actually none of them really mean anything. And that perfect oneness is still true and real and the only thing that, is of any value in this world. And so the true self and the true perceptions that's inspired by the Holy Spirit, the remembrance of perfect love, bring you back ultimately to that state of pure formless awareness of perfect love of God. So the Holy Spirit reaches from the Christ in you to all your dreams and bids them come to him to be translated into truth. So again, he's just giving us really how this Holy Trinity operates.
Mm-hmm. The remembrance of perfect love reaches from the true self in me to all my dreams and asks them to come to it to be translated into truth.
He will exchange them for the final dream, which God appointed as the end of dreams.
It will exchange them for the final dream, which pure formless awareness of perfect love appointed as the end of dreams.
But when forgiveness rests upon the world and peace has come to every son of God, what could there be to keep things separate? For what remains to see except Christ's face?
For when I have let go of the world and peace has come to every extension of perfect love, what can there be to keep things separate? For what remains to be aware of except my true self's identity? And from the top, remembrance of perfect love reaches from the true self in me to all my dreams and asks them to come to it to be translated into truth. It will exchange them for the final dream, which pure formless awareness of perfect love appointed as the end of dreams. For when I have let go of the world and peace has come to every extension of perfect love, what can there be to keep things separate? For what remains to be aware of except my true self's identity? Let's just say in the remembrance of perfect love is reaching out to our true self so that they can be translated into the truth and we can exchange them for the final dream with this pure formless awareness of perfect love as appointed for the end of dreams.
But demonstrated here, the reaching is these arrows.
Mm-hmm.
It reaches into the dream, it perceives, it sees all the chaos and madness of the ego, but it reinterprets it. So the true self then perceives with the Holy Spirit remembrance of love, perfect love, and gives you a different perception of all these events. And now the true self is strengthened. When you perceive correctly, it's like, okay, even though it may be a direct contradiction of oneness, perceived correctly, it reinforces that only oneness is true and only oneness works. And so you're constantly reinforcing the true self and denying the false self. And that's what your life is for. Your life is for forgiveness, for letting go, for making these corrections that are the miracles. That's what it's about. So that you finally learn who you are. You are this true self. You are this pure formless awareness of perfect love that underlies the true self and all correct perception. So that extends into the self-concept of the true self, the Christ, and into the Holy Spirit, which is the ability to perceive correctly. That's why we call it the extension of, into this world. This is how God comes into this world and helps us in this world of form. Because without the Holy Spirit and the Christ, the true self, how would you do it? There would be no interface. There would be no way home. Be no way to bridge the great gap between pure formless awareness of perfect love, which doesn't know anything about this, and the world of duality and illusion. So very, very, very important that we understand the role of the Christ, the true self, and the Holy Spirit in our awakening, because they are our guides. They're what is going to get us home, and free us from the mess we've made, our ego's made. Okay, so this is how long? And how long will this holy face be seen, when it is but the symbol that the time for learning now and the goal of the atonement has been reached at last?
And how long will it perceive the innocent identity, when it is only the symbol that the time for learning is now over and the goal of at-one-ment has been reached at last?
So therefore, let us seek to find Christ's face and look on nothing else.
So therefore, let me seek to find my true self's identity and perceive nothing else.
As I behold its magnificence, sorry, I'm reading wrong. As we behold his glory, well, we know we have no need of learning or perception or of time or anything except the Holy Self, the Christ whom God created as his Son.
As I behold its magnificence, I will know I have no need of learning, perception, time, or anything except the holy innocent self, whom perfect love extends as its extension. And from the top, and how long will I perceive this innocent identity, when it is only the symbol that the time for learning is now over and the goal of the at-one-ment has been reached at last? So therefore, let me seek to find my true self's identity and perceive nothing else. As I behold its magnificence, I will know I have no need of learning, perception, time, or anything except the holy innocent self, whom perfect love extends as its extension.
Okay, thoughts on that?
It's just saying, how long is it going to take us to recognize this innocent identity and learn that time is now over and the goal at one-ment has now been reached? Let us not seek to find anything other than our true self and perceive nothing else. This is our magnificence.
Yeah, just go for it, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's read there's a summary. I said I would do some summary of this, so just read the summary quickly, and then we'll finish off with a meditation.
Shall I do the first paragraph? My true self is the extension of perfect love, connecting me with all my companions and with pure formless awareness itself. It remains forever innocent, untouched by the illusions of separation. My true self is the part of me that holds perfect love's answer, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over. It exists beyond what my body's eyes can see, free of sin and eternally at peace.
Yeah, thoughts on that?
I was just talking about our true self and how we're connected, how it's connected with our companions, with this pure formless awareness. And it's forever innocent, untouched by the illusions. And it's part of
So
me.
this is a self that never sinned, you never did anything wrong. You just need to restore your mind to that. And the delusion that you're sinful and guilty and evil and fearful just disappears. My true self is at home only within pure formless awareness of perfect love, as it is the only real part of me. All else is illusion, destined to fade as I recognize and accept my true self. To fade away, should we say? I'm not actually sure if that's going to work. So I'll leave it. The remembrance of perfect love within me calls out to all my dreams, inviting them to be transformed into truth, leading me to the final vision that signals the end of all dreams. So thoughts on that, paragraph 2?
Well, it's just about that true self is actually at home in this pure, formless awareness of perfect love, and everything else is an illusion and destined to fade away. And so inviting and to be transformed into this truth, ending all our dreams of separation, of misery and suffering.
Yeah, and then the last paragraph, you read that.
In recognizing my innocent identity, I understand that the purpose of learning is fulfilled, and the journey of separation has ended. Now I seek only to perceive my true self's magnificent, needing nothing else, not time, learning, or perception, but only the pure and innocent self that perfect love extends as its own. It's just recognizing this innocent identity and understand the purpose of learning is fulfilled and the separation is ended. So we only now want to see the true self's magnificence and nothing else. No time, learning, or perception, but only pure and innocent self. A perfect love extends on its own.
Yeah, as its own. So the Christ is just the extension in our own minds of this pure awareness. It's able to still function in a body, in a world of senses and perceptions. It's able to perceive, it's able to interpret perceptions correctly, it's able to make decisions, it's able to act very functionally, much more effectively than the ego, which is why it's needed in this world. So our goal in this world, yes, you're saying to us, just to summarize this whole discussion, your goal is to ascend to the Christ, to identify fully with your true self and perceive correctly. And the course is directed at that goal, because he's saying, I can't teach you the meaning of love. That's beyond what can be taught. God will take the final step. So the step from the true self into God, pure formless oneness with perfect love, will happen of itself when you're ready. So what you can do is you can change your mind, you can correct your perceptions systematically and progressively using this technique of letting go or radical forgiveness, and you'll become more and more identified with the true self. And then this step from here to here will happen of itself. God takes the final step. So the course is not directed here, it's directed at this process of raising yourself up from believing in the illusion of a separate self and time and space and everything that goes on here, and really identifying with that, to identifying with the true self and perceiving everything correctly with the help of the Holy Spirit. And that's what the Holy Trinity is for. And then that will automatically bring you home, because God will take the final step when you're ready. So that's how you bridge the gap. That's how you go home. And if you know a better way, then by all means share it. But this is the only way, really. There's got to be a bridge home, and this system gives us that bridge. I'm not saying other paths won't take you home, but then those other paths would have to incorporate this element of letting go and identifying with a true self. In Advaita Vedanta, masters of it like Ramana talked about the self, capital self, very much. So you need to identify with the immanent eternal self in you. And so that's the Christ self. It's the same thing. Just different terminology. You can use the word Christ, but whatever you use doesn't matter, because it's an awareness in your own mind. Okay, so it leaves us say 15 minutes to do a meditation if you'd like.
Yeah, very good.
End it off. I've got a call at 4 o'clock, so let's do that. Okay, so this is a meditation on lesson 274. So just making yourself comfortable, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, your hands in your lap, close your eyes. And I'm going to start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale, clench your sphincter muscle to lock the energy in. It's muscle used to contract the flow of urine or squeeze the last drops out. You feel this maybe warm wave of energy rising up the spine into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart if that's helpful. Raise it up into your head. Pull it up into the crown of your head. Say, just bring to mind any kind of fear going on. So that's any stress and fear are synonymous. Anything you feel worried about, anxious about, stressed about. Just look at that. Notice the thoughts, notice the emotions, notice how that shows up in your body. Maybe there's a kind of nervous feeling in your stomach, tightness in your chest, sweaty palms, extreme, it's nausea, panic attacks, and so on. Wherever you are on that spectrum, just notice. Breathe into it. Remind yourself that today belongs to love. So let me not fear. An alternative language, today belongs to love, so I am not afraid. And you breathe in this loving awareness that underlies all fear, and infuse every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind in this loving awareness. And now listen to these words. This is a prayer to your source, your highest awareness, deep in your mind. So my source, today, I let all things be as you extend them and give your extension the honor due to its innocence, the love of one companion for another, and for the remembrance of perfect love, which is everyone's friend. So it's an invitation to this source, this loving awareness to extend into your mind, into all of your perceptions, and then just release anything that's out of accord with that. So any darkness, any fear, it often shows up in your body as tightness, darkness. Just be aware of it and exhale, blow it out. The breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. It's going, gone. Say, I am liberated through this awareness. I am free. Blow it all out. That's just like a dark cloud or black smoke leaving you out of your body, out of your mind, out of your energy system. Feel the freedom of this. Say to yourself, I'm liberated through this. And through this as well, the truth will enter where illusions were. So I invite the truth in to my mind. Through this as well, you breathe in again. The truth will enter where illusions were. So allow the truth to enter. The breath is an invitation, an inhaling of something. So invite the truth, this loving awareness into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. Truth will enter where illusions were. Therefore, this awareness will replace all negative awareness. And as your extension, I will know myself as you extend me. will know myself as you extend me. You extend. Into the dream world. I know myself as you extend me. Just feel this loving awareness, which is a special blessing that comes to you today from your source. So say, I give this day to it. I will not be afraid today because I've given the day to love. And just embrace this loving awareness. Breathe it into every pore and every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. It's in this loving awareness. And then you exhale. Blow it out. So just feel the blessings, feel the love and the peace and the joy for a couple of minutes. There's nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. Just breathe, relax, and be still. Quiet, calm, aware, still, silent. Sinking deeper and deeper into this quiet, calm, still center where these blessings can be experienced. There is no fear, only love. So give yourself the opportunity just to experience this for the next couple of minutes of deep, peaceful silence. So gently just come back from this deep state of awareness into an awareness of your body and the breath and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pause at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind. Notice any thoughts, any emotions going on, particularly anything feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting anywhere, i.e. fearful. Remind yourself that today I give to love, and so I'm not afraid. There is no fear, and you just breathe in the loving awareness one more time. So every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind is infused with this awareness. You can visualize it as a light if you like, and just feel that darkness, that limitation, that contraction of the fear just releasing. So you exhale. And you just exhale, release. Blow it all out with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Going, gone. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out, and just rest. Notice any thoughts and emotions going on. Notice what's happening in your body, your mind, in the surrounding area. And just stay, commit to staying in this true awareness. This peace, this love, this joy, just carry it with you. You can use today's lesson to remind you to do that by listening to a breath break frequently. So it is said and so it is done. And finally, on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a moment to look around and just looking around and finding a nice peaceful awareness in which you're comfortable, you're peaceful, and you carry on in the state of fearlessness, of flow. So I think that brings us to the end of the meditation and of the session.